Service your existing car with us right now.
And it's worth £500 off your next car.
Yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go!
Rangers turned it around last night in the Champions League and they've booked their dates with PSV Eindhoven in the playoff. First leg on Tuesday. And the following Wednesday, the second leg. That's 2 weeks tonight in Eindhoven. Well, somebody who knows all about Eindhoven, knows about that team, is Barry Ferguson. Barry, first of all, what about last night? How good was that atmosphere?
Yeah, the atmosphere was electric, Paul. It wasn't a vintage performance from Rangers, but you know what? They done what was needed, and that was to get the result and get into the next round. It was a real gritty performance. There was a bit of nerves in the first half performance, but as soon as Rangers get that penalty at a crucial time, just before half time, Tavernier steps up as usual, puts it in the back of the net, and then Rangers come out in the second half and commanded the game, and overall thoroughly deserved to go through. After the performance last Tuesday, which was really below par, they showed last night good mentality, and look, they're in the next round. PSV, Dutch team. Gio's obviously a Dutch manager at Feyenoord, so that'll be one he'll be looking forward to. But PSV are a very good team, so that'll be a difficult tie. But always at home, under the lights with the fans behind them, Rangers have always got an opportunity of winning a game.
How could they be so bad last week and so good last night? I know it wasn't vintage, but it was so much better.
Listen, as a player, you have, me and Peter spoke about it last Wednesday, you get through games like that and you get a bit of criticism. I'm sure the players would have listened and read quite a bit of it. It's just how you react to that, and they reacted well on Saturday against Kilmarnock with a good win. And last night, as I said, there was a lot of pressure on them. The fans had a lot of expectations, and it was nervy, no doubt about it. But listen, they showed that they're more than capable, and they got the right result last night. That was the most important thing.
Peter, from a Celtic perspective, to see both teams potentially in the Champions League, what do you feel about it? You did say you thought Rangers would win last night.
Yeah, I did.
And go through.
And I think they have got that quality to do that. If you've got everybody fit, and you're getting more games under your belt, I think that's important. We've seen it with Celtic so many times, early losing games that you don't expect them to lose. Rangers didn't perform well last week. I was a bit nervy last night, of course. But to win 3-0 in any game, and their record at home, I think it's 6 games. If you look at the teams they've beaten, the last 6 games at home has been phenomenal. And I think the manager's got to take great credit. I'm a big champion of him. But you've got like John McLaughlin playing again in goals, and the manager stood by that. And all these things must have been going through his mind. Even selecting the team for Saturday, and never mind getting into the European game, because it was going to be massive. And all the supporters are calling for different things. So getting that clean sheet as well for him, as I say, it's fantastic if both Glasgow clubs can get into it.
PSV, Rangers have a good chance, or is it going to be really tough? What do you feel?
It's always tough against the Dutch sides. They're always very, very good technically. You can't make many mistakes because they've got players that will punish you. I think that's it. And they're a top quality side. The good thing is Gio know a lot about them. That's for sure. And I'm sure it'll be help from say Athernat at Alkmaar, getting him below down. But I don't think he'll need that. Like a lot of his background and his support staff are Dutch as well, so they'll know all the players, which is a good thing. But sometimes you've got to make sure you go out there and have your team prepared. You have your team prepared to go and play well, and that's all you can do. You'll have them well versed on what PSV can do, but it's more important what his team can do. And at Ibrox, they've been phenomenal, so you've got to tip your hat to it, and as you say, hopefully they can do it again next week.
Barry, bit of controversy at the beginning when you saw the lineup. When we gave it last night, we were surprised because we thought Stephen Davis would play, for example. I wouldn't have thought that Sands would have been in automatically along with Barisic. What did you feel?
Yeah, there was a few surprises, but listen, Gio's called it right. Rangers have won the game. They went through it. I just thought Stephen Davis was experiencing it. I watched Rangers play on Saturday against St Johnstone, and he was a standout performer, so I thought he would have played last night. But Gio went very attack minded. in the middle of the pitch with Arfield and Tillman, with Lundstrom just behind them. So who are we to have a go at? Gio, he picked the right team. He
But that's the thing, he does, but as you know
time.
yourself, we spoke about it before. For the goal, you see Arfield getting in the box again. We say he's fantastic at it. A lot of players don't do it. That's why I thought they brought Ramsey for last year. But I already thought they had that with Arfield anyway. And Arfield had played a lot more games in that period of time. And every time he's been called upon in these games, he gets opportunities because it's so difficult to pick up and nearly get the goal from it. So you've got to give the manager credit, because I was the exact same as you. I think Davis is a top player, and you can stay holding it, especially away from home. I thought it would have been more important for him to play away from home, and you know you have to win the game. So I can see why he went with the more attacking Arfield in this particular game. But Arfield is a top player at finding that space, and it's so important, especially if they've got that five at the back line. It's got to be somebody that's arriving on, and you get the opportunity, the ball ended up getting in the back of the net.
Yep. Before the game, I was looking at the team. I'm thinking to myself, I'm no sure. But as the game went on, Gio proved his selection was right, and he made the substitutions for me at the right times, and that's why he's a Rangers manager. He's a very good manager. Listen, he's got difficult decisions to make, as all managers. Not everybody's going to be happy with what 11 he picks, but that's why you've got a big squad. There's a lot of quality, and last night he proved that with picking the correct team to go through.
0808 17 700, the Go Radio Football Show. Barry Ferguson, Peter Grant and Paul Cooney taking your calls now. We're with Macklin Motors, and you can come on the socials at Go Football Show. Many of you have been on. I see that Monaco have launched a complaint to UEFA after PSV fans woke them up at 4 o'clock. And is that going to happen to you, Barry, in 2 weeks' time, do you think?
I had that a few times in my career. Old firm games at the old motor house staying.
Indeed, down by the Clyde.
Yep, alarm went off at 2.
Was
then
Peter spotted in the area at the time?
Absolutely.
That's part of it. Listen, fans are going to do that. That's to be expected. Listen, it's annoying when you're trying to get asleep when you've got a big game, but listen, I think it's happened to every footballer.
Worse when you're out in that fire alarm, as you say. That's the worst thing. 3 or 4 in the morning, you're standing outside and you know there's nothing wrong. That was the worst thing ever.
Is Glasgow becoming just such a hotbed in European football? The atmosphere at Ibrox, the atmosphere at Celtic Park over the years has been phenomenal. I heard them in TalkSport earlier on. That was the lead story. They were saying, what do you think? Is Glasgow like no other place?
I believe so. I think both Ibrox and Celtic Park in European nights. I think a lot of teams, a lot of top players and top teams will come, and with the atmosphere that both Rangers and Celtic fans create, it certainly helps the home team. There's no doubt about it. Last night I heard that. I was watching it on TV. You could hear the roar, and that'll be the same when Celtic's group gets announced and Celtic have their first Champions League game at Celtic Park. I think a lot of people will come and be taken aback by the noise that both fans create.
What do you think? 0808 17 700.
See on that, Paul, Barry's been down England, but I've said to you time and time again, outside Manchester United, nobody plays under the pressure of Celtic Rangers, and that's what the fans expect. They love their clubs, they want them to win, they're so passionate about their football, and that's why I keep saying it. And I say that after being 25 years down there. Sure. I'm not saying it after 5 minutes. So I've been everywhere. These clubs cannot. You've seen it in Manchester City getting criticism with empty seats at big games, but people don't turn up. You know, that doesn't happen.
That's
here.
a great point. And Man United went 25 years without winning a title, as we know.
Absolutely.
And they've now gone, 9 years? Whereas at Celtic, you couldn't go 9 years without a title, could you?
Well, we went 6.
Well, but it's not 9.
I went 6 when I was there, so
sure.
I know how difficult it was and how hard that was.
Yeah.
You know, I know how hard it was for us as players, but I know equally if more so supporters, and that's what I'm talking about. And that's why I can talk for the fact of being down there. If I wouldn't have been down there, I would never have said these things. So you're not 100% sure. You know, when you see the top players talking about it, the top managers talking about going to these Celtic Park and Ibrox, listen, we've got to tip our hat to the supporters, and we've always said that. It's nothing without the supporters, so we make sure we've got that.
If you go and Peter's right, I've seen Barcelona players getting interviewed, Bayern Munich, all sorts of players, and they always mention Glasgow, whether they've played at one or another, whether it be Celtic Park or Ibrox. They always say the atmosphere that these places create, and I honestly think it hinders the teams that come, because sometimes I don't think they can handle it.
Sure.
And I thought that last night by Union.
Did you? Yeah, it did
Because they're a
affect
good
them,
team,
didn't it? Yeah.
They're a good team. They've got good technical players, but I did believe they were kind of.
What did you see?
A bit of nervousness. Listen, I said
Mistakes.
Rangers were a bit nervous, but you could see Union. They're looking about and thinking a lot of probably would put my neck out and say a lot of their players, or every single player in that Union team, hadn't sampled an atmosphere like that before.
Here's the manager, GVB.
Well, we needed a big performance, and the pressure was on us, of course, because of the defeat we had last week. We know we are capable in delivering big nights for the club, but still you have to do it over and over again. That's why I'm so proud of my players, the way they played, with passion, with desire, with fire to go to the next round. And that's the only way. You have to be on the pitch to create the atmosphere we created today, together with the fans. Again, it was an amazing night for all of us.
Amazing night. Craig, how are you feeling?
How we doing, gents?
Good. Yeah.
I thought we could do it. I said to yourself a few days ago that I thought it'd be 3-0, but I thought it'd be 3-0 after extra time. And I think a lot of people thought that, but impressed to have got the result, because I think it's the first time we've ever overturned a 2-goal deficit in a second leg. I think there's more to come, which is, I think, a good thing, because the first half an hour, 40 minutes, we were kind of champing the door, but without really creating much. So
you'd got to that stage of the game, hadn't you, Craig, where you needed to get something because you were
that
better
penalty,
earlier on.
They needed that just before, because I think they would have been delighted getting in at half time 0-0. So that one with Tavernier sticking it away, the Rangers players have went back into the dressing room. They're ready to rock for the second half. It was a bad mistake for the guy. I don't know what he was doing with the penalty. But listen, Rangers needed that and they got it. And fair play to them, they came out in the second half and they took the game to Union.
People do say a goal just before half time, Peter, means everything. You could see it last night.
It's massive, because especially if you've not played as well as people are expecting, and there's a nervousness comes in with the supporters. You feel like you've got to half time, you think, we've only got 45 minutes to try and get 3 goals. All of a sudden it's changed. You need 1 goal to put it at extra time or whatever. And then you get a performance. The fans are up there buzzing for the second half to start. The players are going to be excited. You can imagine what the dressing room have all been there. In the dressing room, you've just scored at an important time. And then, as you say, on top of that, with the fans coming out, it's important. The big thing for me, and the big change for me is the Rangers supporters didn't get as nervous as I used to say. Some of the players couldn't handle it because the fans were negative to them. I said that last year quite a bit. I felt they were negative, and that sort of put some of the players couldn't handle that, and that was always a question mark I had. I think from last season to even last night, you see that completely different now, and you can see that's helping their players. They can handle that, and there's a lot of that guys have went through that now. They're no new to it. The Lundströms, whatever you call them, Tavarnes, Goldstons, they've all went through that now. So they're going around about these boys in the dressing room, you could tell them, and they've lived that now. It's not somebody giving them that with their voice. They've lived through it now, so they know what it means, and that's what you've got to be able to handle as playing for Celtic or Rangers.
It was a massive moment in the game, because you're just a minute before half time. If the whistle goes, it's nothing eats. The fans are a wee bit down. They were going crazy at half time, and that gives you, as a player walking off, the atmosphere's absolute jumping. That gives you a buzz as well.
Whereas the opposition are going, we only need 45 minutes.
Exactly. So it was a massive moment. But listen, again, I've got to mention his name, Tavernier. Step him up in a pressure situation.
He looked cool.
Yeah, he did that. 7 years he's been at the club, and I think they paid 300 grand for him. His numbers, I know that was down in divisions, but I think over the last couple of years he's become a proper leader. He came in for a bit of criticism a couple of years ago. One thing about him is he doesn't hide. He always made himself available, and I liked that about him. And you know what? He's getting the just rewards now with some of his performances, and he's been a proper captain for Rangers.
Craig, who else do you want to mention? What about Tom Lawrence?
I thought he did a terrific game. I really do. I think it was important that he did, because I don't think Kent was necessarily at 100% his best. So the fact that we had somebody like Tom Lawrence absolutely taking it by the scruff of the neck at times, I think it was important. I think the first couple of games he played, you probably would have said he'd been trying a bit too hard. And I think last night he just, went out there, played his game, and was fantastic. And I think it kind of showed as well that, that Union, they are a decent side, but they weren't as good a side as we maybe made them look in the first leg. So, I was impressed with Lawrence. I must touch on this. I thought the referee had a bizarre game last night. I mean, he didn't seem to know which way was up at one point. Lawrence got booked for a Rangers player getting wiped out for no apparent reason. Then Sands, I don't even know what happened with Sands. I was sitting with my pal and I thought, and I said, did he just get sent off? And then he's like, no, I think the linesman's changed.
He was going. Yeah, it was a second yellow. Here's what the manager said about the refereeing decisions.
We knew that last week it wasn't a penalty, so that make it harder for us. And today, just happy with the decisions of the ref. Of course, it was in our favor, but I think there was one moment, second half, with James Sands. I was like, this can be a very important moment for the game. It was good for us that he didn't give the yellow card and the ball to us. Yeah, it's very important to keep pushing for these moments. We want to be in Champions League and the desire to be in the Champions League. I saw that today with my players.
Barry, it worked out.
Yeah, let's not talk about the referee because he wasn't great. But in terms of what Craig says, I'm sure Peter will agree with me. Yeah. Ryan Kent, he wasn't on top of his game, but he's like Jota at Celtic. See, when he plays, he occupies two players. They were doubling up all the time, and that's what was happening when he was receiving the ball. And then that opens gaps.
And as you know, when you see the team sheet, don't you? You look for certain players. If they're playing, you're obviously a wee bit more concerned.
They know all about him.
Absolutely, 100%. They know how well he done last year, especially in the Dortmund game away from home. They know he's a top quality player who can create for them. And all of a sudden, it's completely different. If you go into the dressing room and all of a sudden the team sheet comes in and you've not got these guys playing, you start thinking to yourself, we've got a bit of a chance here. They've not really got that career. But I agree. I really like Lawrence. I've always liked Lawrence. And I just think he's got that quality. He can be a Rangers player, and the more games he gets, he'll become better.
Craig, you know your football inside out. So, of course, does Barry and Peter, having played it at the highest level. Did you realise that Malik Tillman could jump like that, Barry? I mean, it was phenomenal. Yeah,
well, listen, it was an error for the goalkeeper, let's be honest. But you've got to give Tillman credit. I mean, brave coming in for the header, but I thought in spells in the game, he's technically excellent, powerful. He's always in a half turn. He's aware what's round about him. And at 20 years of age, he's not played a lot of first team football. I think the more games he's going to get, I think the better he's going to get. And I think Rangers have got a real find there.
I think that's important. And not only that, as we say, once you pull the jersey on, that's fine. You get your pictures and that's fine. Can you go and handle playing in it? That's the next question people are always asking you. Now they've had a taste of it. They've had a big atmosphere, a massive result. Now they've got another one coming up next week again. That's what separates these boys when they say, oh, he can play for Rangers or he can play for a Celtic. It's not just, as I say, turn up, getting your picture taken. You've got to handle that pressure and everything that goes, good and bad. You've got to be able to take it.
Because the question this time last week was, like with Matondo, with Tillman, would they be able to do it at the highest level?
That's what you get at Rangers or Celtic. One off game, you're going to be questioned. It's how you respond, and these players responded in the right manner, I think, over the last couple of games. Now it's about getting a level of consistency. I do agree with Craig. I think just a bit more time, but you don't get much time in the west of Scotland. But I think the more games that they play with each other, I think the better they'll get. Craig? And that's the similar as Celtic last year. That was a brand new team, an off start to the season. Gradually, as the season went on, Celtic get better and better and better, and I think this will what happened with Rangers with the signings that have come in.
Craig, we need to crack on just now. Can we speak to you again before the game next Tuesday? Thanks for calling.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go! Go Radio Football Show with Macklin Motors. Barry Ferguson, Peter Grant, Paul Cooney. Loads of your calls coming in. 0808 17 17 700. Thanks for making the switch to Glasgow's Home. We run from 5 every night of the week, and this time tomorrow night Craig Moore will be here. He was on Rangers TV last night, wasn't he? Big Oz was on.
I was watching some
How was he?
McCann. He was good. Listen,
he's always good, isn't he?
He knows the game. Big Oz.
And also Andy Walker making his debut here tomorrow night.
Very
Somebody
good.
you know well and played alongside.
Fantastic striker.
Terrific.
Tough guy as well. I asked Graham Roberts about that. He used to run about kicking Graham Roberts, so that was the opposite. You usually think Graham Roberts would kick him. Andy used to run about kicking him.
Did he ever go at Craig Moore at one time? Was there something? We'll find out tomorrow night. The two of them head to head tomorrow night. Very good, isn't he, on Sky? Yeah. So we've got him in tomorrow night. Be good to hear.
I don't know
Andy.
if he's up there with Davy, but he's close to Davy.
Well, listen, who is with Davy Provan? I've not heard from Davy for a wee while. He's obviously enjoying the sunshine.
Sitting there with his frozen his glass of beer.
Indeed, I think he's deserved it. See if I give you this team lineup. This was Rangers up against PSV, and Barry, you played in it 20 years ago or so. The Rangers team: Stefan Klos, Craig Moore, Tony Vidmar, Lorenzo Amoruso, Sergio Perini, Barry Ferguson the captain, Derek McInnes, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Neil McCann, Michael Moles and Rodney Wallace. Do you remember it? And you remember who you were up against in the Eindhoven team at that time?
Yep, you look at some of the players that they had there. Van Nistelrooy, obviously, who's the manager.
Who was he?
He was a proper centre forward.
One of the best you ever played against, Van Nistelrooy.
Yeah, he's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Just
goal machine.
Look at the career he's had at Manchester United, Real Madrid. Van Bommel, who was an excellent midfielder, and look, Neelis, the Belgian boy, who was a top class centre forward. I think people will remember. He got that move to Aston Villa, but unfortunately had a horrendous, I think it was a triple leg break that he never managed to come back from. But they were an excellent team, and we were kind of written off because obviously Dick Advocaat had came for PSV along with Arthur Newman, and people thought that they had a better chance of getting through. But we went over there and beat them 1-0. Big Georgie Alberts got a goal, and then we brought them to Ibrox and we managed to beat them 4-1.
Amoruso, Moles, McCann and Moles again, and it was Ruud van Nistelrooy penalties. So Peter, it's great to hear about these games, isn't it? You remember
Fantastic.
them well.
You remember watching them, you know, and Alexei Van Nistelrooy, you're talking about, unbelievable finisher. You know, as good as even in the Premiership when he came with Manchester United, incredible. But another typical Dutch, got an opinion. I think had a big fallout before the cup final, if I'm right, with Sir Alex Ferguson. Remember, he left him on the bench, I think, for one of the big games, or didn't put him on, or didn't strip him because there was a big fallout. I think Ruud had that, but I think he had to have that selfishness, the way he played and the goals that he scored, you know. But as you say, fantastic result for Rangers, and they'll settle for that result again. But it's interesting, Van Nistelrooy scored in the 45th minute with a penalty kick as Rangers were 2 up, so the game could have changed. You know,
well spotted.
Hey,
you could be a pundit.
You know,
it was never a penalty.
Was it not right?
Ferguson must have been involved.
Here's Scott, big Rangers fan on the line and Go Radio. Hi, Scott.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Hi, Scott.
Very well, thanks. And you?
Yeah, better after last night compared to last Tuesday.
Yeah. You believed it could happen, and it did. Who was man of the match for you?
I think you just look at the midfield. You've got, I think Lawrence was the best player in the park. When we signed him, I was very excited, and so far I think he's lived up to the excitement. I watched a bit of him at Derby last season, as much as I could, and he was by far the standout, and I proved it last night again. And he was top. And John Lundstrom, just what you expect from John Lundstrom again. Back
to what it was last season, Barry. John Lundstrom.
Yeah, listen, he had a tough start, and I maintained that. I'd seen a lot of Lundstrom with watching Flecky, who was a young boy when I was at Rangers coming through. Always kept an eye on Sheffield United, and Lundstrom did stand out for Sheffield United. And as I says, he got the opportunity after Celtic battered Rangers at Celtic Park 3-0. He came into the team and he was a mainstay in the team. He was brilliant towards the end of the season. And I agree with the caller about Lawrence. Free transfer, 28 years of age. I think his best football's in front of him. He was a captain at Derby. I did watch Derby a few times last season because of what was going on, and Wayne Rooney being the manager there. He was always a standout performer. So I think that's a brilliant bit of business for Rangers, and I thought last night he showed these qualities in a pressure situation.
The midfield, we were all talking about it, Peter, who would play. Here's the manager talking about that battle in the midfield.
We knew that the midfield part would be a very important part of the game today, with the players they had, with the captain always. You know, the play started always with him, number 8, the runner, the 20, the 6. So we wanted to have the midfield domination. And that's why we played with Tom and Malik a little bit inside together with Scott Arfield to create, the numbers there and to make them run. Try to create more chances that we did last week. And, with players like Malik and Tom, you can do that. And John was really important too. Kept the pressure on them, make sure that the balance was good in the team. And we know the fire he has in these moments, and that's what he gave to the team as well.
Peter?
No, I think that's important. We said it last week that we felt he should have done that with the numbers. When we spoke about it, we felt they'd emptied the middle of the pitch too much for an away game, and we thought he could have played with extra midfield player as that extra number 9, if you know what I'm saying, like a Scott Arfield or whatever, or start with Stephen Davis. And we felt that last week, because I think no matter what game you play away from home is always extremely difficult. It's always extremely difficult, and you can't be overloaded in the middle of the pitch, because games have never changed 9 times out of 10. That's where they're won and lost, because that's who services the wide players or the strikers or helps your defenders out. And I just felt in the first game that's where Rangers lost the game. And then, as you say, last evening, putting extra body in there, but also a threat, because putting that extra body in there with Arfield, who goes and gets in the box, still gives you that number 9 again, or that second number 9.
And see in terms of Scott Arfield, Peter makes a good point there. He doesn't really get involved in the game much, but his runs always occupy the midfielders and the defenders. Because I think it's a dying breed, late runs for midfield, and that's what Scotty Arfield brings. A lot of people might have said last night, well, he wasn't really involved, but just watch him, some of the runs he creates, openings for likes of Tillman and Lawrence. We're making the runs beyond.
Well, you think, Baz, the game would start with you, the way you played, ball would get into you first. So he done that job as well, didn't he? Because he drops back in the number 8 who's going to start the play. So he becomes that extra defender for you, who a lot of strikers are no very good at it, to be perfectly honest with you. A natural midfielder does it better, and he then goes the other way. And it's hard if you're the playmaker like Barry is. And we would do, if we were playing against Barry, we'd say, make sure the ball stop going to him. Don't let him dictate play. You know, and that's what you had to do. And I think that's what Gio was making the point there, that why Scott Arfield was still in the team, but still give them that goal threat. And I think that he does that exceptionally well.
Is that instinctive that he's got that, or is he worked on it over the years?
Yeah, well, I remember him. I played against him when he was a young kid at Falkirk, and he was that type of player. And you know, it's like with experiencing it down to England, playing with Huddersfield, and then in the Premier League with Burnley. He gets better and better at it. And again, another free transfer they got Scott Arfield for. And I said towards the end of the season, I was hoping that Rangers would offer him a new contract. He got that year's extension, and I think if he's not going to play, I think it's a brilliant player to have to come on and make an impact, Scotty Arfield.
Money well spent, because that's 5 million last night, Scott, for Rangers, plus the TV and all the rest of it and the crowd, and the chance still of 35 to 40 million in the Champions League. So PSV at home Tuesday, what are you thinking?
I think I'd rather play away first, personally, to bring it back to Ibrox, get the second leg at Ibrox. Obviously, what?
But you're not.
Last season.
Sure. But you're not. So what are you thinking? What do you feel?
I think I'm confident we'll get through, because I think Gio's tactical nous in Europe is shown this, even last night and last season. And yeah, I think PSV is an easier tie than Monaco would have been. I think Monaco would have been tougher. But yeah, I'm confident we'll get through. And I'll never go into a game thinking we'll lose or we won't get through.
Sure. Peter?
No, I think it's an interesting one. I was thinking that myself, would be your preferred playing away first, because then you know what you've got to do when you come back. Whereas it's that we don't want to go out the tie in the first one, you know, but you know you've still got to be positive. Do the fans still feel the same way? Right, we need to score. You've got to always be in the tie. That's always the secret. But as I say, Ibrox, on the games coming to Ibrox in the second leg has been phenomenal over the last wee period of time for them. So I agree with that. That's my only concern, because I think PSV are a decent side.
Barry?
My preference I would rather play away from home first. But listen, that's the way the draw's been made. Rangers need to make sure that they get a positive result, because it's going to be tough in Eindhoven. They're in this game for a reason, are in this stage in the Champions League for a reason, because they're a very good team. So Rangers are in for a tough one. But again, I just believe if Rangers are really positive with the crowd behind them, they'll make it really difficult at home.
Your old teammate looks forward to the game with PSV, both games.
Well, I mean, it's familiar. It's a familiar team for me. It's great to see Ruud van Nistelrooy. Again, we have so many familiar faces on the bench. Fred Witten as well, I was the assistant of at Feyenoord a couple of years ago. Hoyer, who I played in the national team. It's a familiar place for me, so it's nice to be back in Holland for a couple of days after so many months in Glasgow. You know, we're going to prepare well. It's a big chance for us to take the last hurdle and to become a team who can play Champions League this season.
And Scott, the Rangers fans, it's always been special in European nights, but they seem to rise to even more now. It's getting louder and louder.
Yeah, I think it'll take something to beat the Leipzig game.
Yeah.
But last night was, as soon as we got the first goal, just before half time, I kind of knew we'd go through. And I think goal just before half time was key in terms of lifting the crowd and stuff. And then we just bombarded them in the second half, and they couldn't handle it. And that was from the players and the crowd. Just they couldn't handle any of it.
And what about Tavernier, your captain, cool at the penalty? Here's the manager.
He has a lot of character. He showed that, last season, all the seasons before, as the captain, in these moments you want your captain to step up. He did today again after so many times before. So it was, I think, a important moment, because just before half-time to go 1-0 up and then, have the whole second half to score the second goal. I think psychologically it was, for us a great moment to score.
Barry, does James Tavernier get enough credit yet from the Rangers fans?
Yeah, I think he's starting to get the credit he deserves now.
It's about time, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I was always a big admirer of him. As I said, when players have went through tough times, I'm sure Peter's went through tough times, you always want to make yourself available, and I always found that with Tavernier. He never had. He was always in the front, leading. Even if he didn't have a good game, he was still trying his best. And look, I'm delighted for him, because it's tough when you play at the Old Firm, when you come in for a bit of criticism. Nobody likes criticism, but always look and see how players respond. Did they go out and try even harder? And that's certainly what he's done over the years. And again, I mean, that's a minute before half time. The crowd's on edge a wee bit. He steps up and slots it in the bottom corner. So big character, James Tavernier now.
Did you listen to the criticism? Were you listening to the radio stations, reading the papers in those days?
Yeah,
watching the telly.
I try to use it in a positive way, that to go and work even harder and go and prove people wrong. That's the way that I try to use criticism every single week.
No, you both were always available for your teams, always. Peter, if you got criticism, did you listen to it, and did you hear it, or did you switch it? Managers always used to say, I don't listen.
No, but
I
every
don't
week,
watch.
100%, because even if you say you don't listen, somebody will tell you. And you're used to it. Listen, I was never nice, and I get more criticism probably than most, and it was never nice. It was never nice, and it was hard to take. It was really difficult, but you always made, as Barry said, I think the character you've got to show is you want to go out there and play and do your best. The one thing I would never ever throw at me, anybody could criticise my performance, the way you played, but I always wanted to try and do my best. That was the only thing. You always wanted to be available because you wanted to play. And as I said, Tavernier, young Patterson, we're talking about trying to sell Tavernier and keep Patterson at the time. Remember, he was going through a bad time, trying to get rid of him. Oh, he's not as good as son, bring the young boy in and whatever. And to be fair, I've never seen him taking the penalty the way he did last night. And that's great confidence. It's such an important penalty and an important time. And you've got to give him credit for that. And I think he's another one that's grew with it. As the years have went along and the successes came, especially in the European nights, he's grew that, because he was one, if you remember, it was probably started my thought process that they couldn't handle playing in front of the crowd. I think it was James that said it. And I was really surprised at that, as a leader. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was him that said it. And that spooked me a little bit. Because even if you're feeling that, don't let the world know.
No.
You don't let the world know. And that's why you've got to give him great credit since that, if it was him, that he's grown and grown and grown and became a massive, massive player and rightfully captain.
Scott, what do you want to say to the Go Radio audience about your captain?
I think he's a borderline Rangers legend. If we win another title, then I don't think anyone can really dispute it. European Cup final captain, even though the result didn't go. I think when you captain your team in a European final, then that's automatic legend. And I think he needs a league title or two to really affirm that.
Barry, would you agree?
I can't argue with that. Just the way that he's turned the criticism round about, I always sit back and take notice of that. And I think a lot of people that have been through tough times, that come through it, and obviously he's become a real proper leader. And as I said, there's been a lot of situations over the last couple of years where he's had to stand up and lead for the front, and he's certainly done that. And last night was another way of doing it. We sticking that penalty in the bottom corner. So, and to get him for £300,000 from, I think it was Wigan.
Yeah,
I mean, it's another great piece of business.
Yep.
And it looks to me that he's going to commit his rest of his career to Rangers, because I think he's close to signing a new contract. So that's another bit of great news for the Rangers fans.
And there could be more money for Giovanni with that 5 million coming in and the gate receipts. And I know much will depend on next Tuesday and 2 weeks tonight.
Yeah, it all depends on that. Look, Celtic have got that already in the bank. Rangers have got 180 minutes to come out the traps and do whatever's possible to try and get into the Champions League. Because I think if they don't, then financially they're going to be behind Celtic again.
That's a great point, Scott, isn't it? 180 minutes of football and you could be in the Champions League.
Yeah, I've never been old enough to see us in the Champions League, really.
Oh, don't rub it in.
Apart from
Yeah. No,
maybe,
I know.
maybe the
I know.
odd game, but
Yeah.
nah, just to see. I think last season's given us a proper taste of European football, and a Champions League would just, well, Champions League games and even getting through would be unthinkable at this point. But I think we'll do it.
Think about it for Scottish football, both Rangers and Celtic in the group stages.
Absolutely.
Big teams coming to Glasgow.
It's massive, isn't it?
Top
It'll be a
players.
Tuesday
top
and a
managers.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it happens.
Yep.
I hope it happens because it'll be brilliant for our game.
Chris will be busy on the traffic. Can you imagine it saying, right, it's so busy in the East End at Celtic Park, Real Madrid in town, at Rangers, it's who's it going to come in, PSG or whatever. It's going to be amazing. Peter, is this going to raise the bar for Celtic? We're going to take a break, but I do want to ask you that afterwards, because some Celtic fans, I spoke to Mark this morning, Mark's on here, and they were saying, well, it looked as though Rangers might go out 2-0 down, then they've won 3-0. Spoke to Frankie, a Celtic fan, saying this is great for Celtic, because Celtic need to raise the bar. Rangers have done well in Europe, and nobody wants no competition. When Rangers were out of the top divisions, it wasn't the same for the Celtic fans winning. I mean, it wasn't. They got complacent. It was 3/4 full. Now Celtic Park is full.
Absolutely. And listen,
I know I said after the break. In fact, that's what we're going to do. A
I
quick
know,
break,
you got to say that.
and then we're back. I know. Thanks very much, Scott.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go!
Dress for the traffic and travel. 5:45. It's a very sunny, great day today, Peter, wasn't it? You've been out
beautiful.
training this morning. I know you always
yes,
down
this
to the
morning,
gym.
out before it was too hot.
Yeah. What was that, 6:30?
Yeah, you've got to go.
Indeed,
Got to make
yeah.
sure.
Barry getting
I'm
in for
sleeping at that
celebrations at
time.
that point. Did you have a big night last night? After the game? No.
Listen,
School
I
night.
don't have a glass of wine on a school night.
Good man. Yep.
Monday to Friday, that's my training, my running. I'll do a bit of gym work.
How was the commentary? Did you enjoy it? It was Tom, because it was Rangers TV. It's unusual.
Yeah, it just makes me laugh.
Tom,
it just makes me
I used to
laugh.
see him in the gantry, obviously, at the games.
Every
and,
tackle that Union had, it was a yellow card or a red card. He's brilliant.
They got a huge audience last night, so for Rangers win. Yep, 3-0 last night. They went in 2 goals down. That's the first time ever Rangers have clawed back a 2-goal deficit, Peter, in Europe, in the Champions League. Phenomenal.
Well, we said last week we didn't know if it'd been in 90 minutes, but we fancied it to happen, because you have to. We've all been there involved. As I said to you, sometimes we struggle to win away from home, but at home it's incredible what a difference it makes. I know people talk about it and players can use it at some time to just boost the supporters, but it's fact. It's been proven time and time again. And as you said, the ideal time to score last night was then, because in everybody's buzzing, it's not flat. Then you're going in and the players can't wait to go out for the second half. The manager wouldn't need to do the team talk now. Everything's just be organised. Let's be in control. Make sure we start the second half quickly, but make sure we don't lose some after just getting one, because we only need 1 goal now to take it to extra time, and we got 2, and phenomenal result.
A week's a long time in football, isn't it? So much has changed. This time last week we were speaking about the first goal, and John McLaughlin could have and should have probably done better. The manager spoke about his keeper last night. It wasn't the busiest night for him, but he stood by him at the weekend and last night.
Well, I'm pleased with his performance. Goalkeepers always have moments, it's part of the game, especially when you want to build up from the back and you want your goalkeeper involved in the build-up. He had one great save. I think it was 2-0 at that time, so very important save. And then, of course, after that we scored the 3-0. So also happy with the performance of John tonight, and kept a clean sheet in Europe is always what you want.
It's a mark of an old firm keeper, isn't it, Barry? You've got to be alert, because he didn't have much to do.
Yeah, look, it's clear that John's going to be Rangers' number 1, and when you're an old firm keeper, you could go 80 odd minutes without even touching the ball, so your concentration has got to be spot on. Look, I felt for John. I rate him. I do. I rate him. He's a very good goalkeeper. Just the questions that get asked about Alan McGregor, that's the problem he's got, because Alan McGregor's proved over the course that he's one of the best that Scotland have ever produced. But listen, you can't argue with Big John. He does a great job. He was commanding last night, as Gio just said there. He made a great save at 2-0. When Rangers were dominant with the ball, as I said that word a minute ago, concentration. So that just shows you that he's bang on it. And as I said, I think now Rangers fans are accepting that John's going to be the number 1 going forward. Whether that comes down to his form, he needs to be on it, because he knows who's sitting on the bench. A top class goalkeeper in Alan McGregor.
He's a very good goalkeeper. I keep hearing you say that, and others as well. And Alan McGregor has been a great goalkeeper, but John McLaughlin's now got the gloves and probably
he showed character.
Yeah.
He showed character, Paul, because he knows the questions. As you're talking earlier on about playing for Celtic or Rangers getting criticism, he'd been hearing all that last week to everybody telling him how good McGregor is and you should be playing before him, and he's got to go out and play in that on Saturday. Then he's got to go out and play last night, and knowing that he could be brilliant but make one error, he's crucified again in the respect of that. So at the end of the day, it's great credit to him. As I say, I was fortunate enough to work with him. He's got a good mentality. He trains really, really well. And him and Alan, as you say, they'll be pushing. Alan will be desperate, knowing his character, he'll be desperate to be showing the manager every day in training that he's still the number one, and that can only be better for John. That can be fantastic for John, learning off that experience that Alan's already got.
Yeah, but 100%. Look, Alan will be desperate to play. But one thing I know about Griggsy is he'll be doing everything he can to help John
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
He'll be working hard with him in training, giving him bits of ideas or whatever. But listen, Rangers have got obviously a very good goalkeeper and two very good goalkeepers. That's the pro. But that's what you have at big clubs. But I look at Celtic, Joe Hart and Seagrace was unbelievable for Dundee United last season, and he'll be pushing Joe Hart all the way. But Joe Hart's form, obviously, at the start, he proved that on Saturday, made a couple of top class saves.
He did indeed. Peter, your old club then. So I was asking you just before the break, and I think that's what I was saying. Do you welcome the fact, and will Celtic welcome the fact that Rangers have raised the bar in Europe in recent years? And will this help Celtic to respond, give them even more determination to do well in Europe?
Listen, for supporters and Celtic players and everybody involved at Celtic, they'll be wanting, if Rangers do well, we want to do better. That's the way the cooking crumbles here. You always want to be better. You don't like one be successful if you're not being successful. That's fact. But deep down, everybody will be delighted. We're talking about television on a Tuesday night and a Wednesday night full of Celtic and Rangers, talking about the stadiums being full, the atmosphere in Glasgow. That can only be good to attract even better players. Is that why Celtic, for instance, can keep the Jotas in this world? Whereas before, if you weren't in the Champions League, what are you going to sell them? They're talking about Ronaldo by Manchester United. Let's take it that far. They're saying the reason he wants out of Manchester United is because they're not in the Champions League. And that's somebody at the level that he's played at and the success that he's had. They all want to be involved in that Champions League. And players are no different, clubs are no different. And obviously you want to stay there. And it'd be fantastic if they could start to make an impact in the Champions League, in the sections, getting through, finishing second or first, and you know how difficult it is. But that's the next challenge. It always comes down, and that's the next step that everybody's got to try and make. But the only way you can do that is having the finance to try and be able to do that. And the only way you can do that is being successful constantly and trying to bring that money in so you can get better and better. Rangers kept players this year with the Goldstones and that. They probably stayed because they had an opportunity to try and get into the Champions League instead of going to the Championship. Because, as I said, outside Manchester United, forget the rest. When you're wanting to play for clubs with big support who are passionate about their team.
Barry, do you expect Celtic or Rangers, or maybe both of them, to get back to a European final in, let's say, 5 years? And I'll look at the history books. 2003 Seville with Celtic, you in 2008 with Rangers in 2022.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I'm just thinking there's Champions League. You could have a Real Madrid, a PSG, a Bayern Munich, a Man City coming to Glasgow, whether that's at Celtic Park or Rangers. That excites.
Absolutely.
That excites me. And that, see, as a footballer, you want to pit your wits against the best. And but in terms, I'm trying to get away from your question.
I know that's right, because you're going to have to.
No, it's tough. Listen, again, I was lucky enough to do it in 2008. Rangers done it last year. You need a bit of luck along the way as well. A bit of luck of the draw. Your performances have got to be at the top level. So it will be difficult over the next 5 years. But you never know if they get into the Champions League. As I said, at home, I'd fancy anybody. I mean, we played Barcelona early 2000s. We drew nothing each. Then I flipped to Celtic, beat Barcelona at Celtic Park 1-0. At that stage, they were the best team.
Of course. Messi and
so
yeah.
They're coming to Glasgow. Yeah. I'm not saying that they were nervous, because these are top level players, but you never know.
Became a fortress. Yeah.
Honestly, you never know at Ibrox or Celtic Park.
That's always the case, but you need big results. That's the big thing. Your home form's so important, because it's so difficult to pick against anybody in that Champions League away from home. How difficult it is to try and win a game. And I don't know the reason. Because you think, well, it's the same team you play at home, but it's not. It's a completely different vibe to it. Everything round about it's completely different. And when you come home, you do need that support for your fans. You need that little bit of fortune and good luck. You know, you always need all these, and that's what cup competitions are always built on. And who's to say that can't fall upon a Celtic or a Rangers at one stage? They get that bit of fortune, a big result, a big refereeing decision, whatever, you know. Whereas before with VAR, you maybe get a result that went against you, and it was maybe because somebody was offside. You don't know. These things are all in play now, so they can maybe help you, they could hinder you, but these are things that can maybe help you in the future because you're playing against top quality players, you know. But as Barry says, if you're a player at all in a club, that's who you want to be welcoming through your door.
Stand by for the Champions League music's coming to Celtic, and it's coming to Rangers as well, we think,
next week.
for next week.
Yeah, I get told that they'll play the tune, which in a qualification game, qualifying round, sorry. I thought it was just in the group stages.
Brilliant.
You got your disco lights, no?
You've got them at Celtic, haven't you?
See, in terms of VAR,
Yeah.
can a referee send himself off? Because the VAR was there last night. The referee had an absolute
Unbelievable, wasn't it?
I couldn't believe what I was watching last night.
It was bizarre, wasn't it?
I
Bizarre.
thought he lost control. He didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
Some of it's getting worse. I've always said it. You know, it's
Can the
getting
UEFA
worse.
Observer, if the referee really is out of it, is it the UEFA Observer? It must be. Or is it the fourth official who then says...
But look at this now.
Yeah.
Down in England, you're allowed to tackle harder now, and the referee can play on.
Yeah.
You know, right, okay, that's fine, but that's the way we've always wanted the game to be refereed.
Yeah.
Use your common sense. You know, there is incidents.
don't be
happen.
silly. There's not enough
exactly,
common sense.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
The last referee, I remember it was a fantastic, and it was Graham Poll, who wasn't my favourite referee, but it was a fantastic game. I think it was Manchester United Arsenal. It was brilliant, really competitive, fantastic game. The game flowed, so many tackles going in and opportunities, and all the dirty tricks were going on with the players. And after the game, he got ripped over the coals because of it, because he let the game go and flow too much. And he ended up being suspended for 2 or 3 weeks or something because of it. And it was the best game for anybody to watch. Supporters loved it, everything, but he dropped because he'd never done it to the letter of the law. And I think that's my only argument, is the referee should be allowed to referee the game. Human error has always been part of life. Goals going in, the ball not been over the line, okay, I can understand that, but now we've got VAR for the halfway line. You know, and you see people, as I said to you before, we're going to wait till somebody's injured with this offside rule.
Yeah.
So somebody runs into a goalkeeper and then the referee linesman's put his flag up. That's what's going to happen, and then we'll change it again.
Barry, do you agree on that one?
Yeah, in terms of the offside,
offside.
yeah, I don't get it why they just let it run on. And
Doesn't make sense, does it?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
In the next hour, we're going to ask, could Aaron Moy be the new Scott Brown playing that holding position? Could it be? We'll ask you in the next hour. 0808 17 17 700. And for Rangers fans, how are you feeling about the game? Tuesday night, PSV Eindhoven coming to town, and then it's 2 weeks tonight, decision night, the £40 million match, Barry. That's what's up for stake over in Eindhoven.
Least,
What's the ground like?
Yeah, it's good. Good atmosphere. It's an older stadium. I don't know what it's like now. They may have done it up, but what I remember was it wasn't hostile, but the PSV fans created a fair bit of noise, but nothing like, as I said, nothing like the home game at Ibrox.
It was a huge performance by Rangers last night. Here's the manager speaking about it and about how they did against returning over that 2-goal deficit.
He's a player who can play on many positions. He can play left, wide and coming inside. But I think also today we knew that we had to create chances. And when you have Ryan on the wing and you have Charmany inside together with Malik, you know you're going to create chances. And in the second half we changed a little bit for more speed on the right with Robbie coming in and eventually with Morelos up front. But this team can play in so many ways, and we can always change our tactics within the games, and we still have a lot of quality on the bench. So I'm really happy for all of us that we're playing next week against PSV.
And Barry, that was the point you made. He started there about Ryan Kent, that the fact that he was on, he occupied the minds. And
as soon as Ryan Kent received the ball last night, 2 Union players were on him. And it's similar to Jota at Celtic. As soon as he receives the ball, if you watch the game at Ross County, 2 players doubling up to make sure they don't get any space. Because if you give these sort of players any space and time, they'll destroy you. Look, he was a wee bit off it last night, but I still thought he played his part. You can see the qualities that Ryan brings to the team, and that's the reason why Gio was desperate to get him in. He'd only trained 1 session. Had been out for I think 7 or 10 days, but he's a big player for Rangers, and I thought he done really well last night.
News is next, and then we're back in a moment.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go! Service your existing car with us right now,
And it's worth £500 off your next car.
Yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go!
Barry, Peter, we both enjoy working with you very much here in Go Radio.
Thank you very much, Paul,
Very
for
welcome,
inviting us.
Barry. Yeah, we enjoy working with you.
No,
Yeah,
I love
good,
working. I'm just
good.
laughing.
Do you love-
I just get a smile just reading De Jong in Barcelona.
What's the latest? Yeah,
Just his owed £17 million in wages.
He has been
he's
for a
not
while.
leaving Barcelona.
And they want to take another 50% wage cut as well if he stays.
yeah. So we like working with both of you. You enjoy being on Go Radio.
Yep.
How are you for tickets for Champions League, Peter? You're definitely in with Celtic. Can you get us a few tickets? Would you imagine?
I'll be walking
for
on the door or
listeners?
something. I'll be walking on the door or something.
You'll be there on the
Trying
night.
something.
Barry, what do you think for Rangers if they get through to the
I'll
Champions
just
League?
make sure I get tickets.
Right, okay. Are you
Yeah,
good
but
for a few
else,
of
as
us
long
to-
as
yeah.
I've got tickets, I'm fine.
Unfortunately, you can't get a lift over anymore.
I
used to love that.
Did you ever get lifted over? Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah.
It was only 10 pence or something, or 50 pence to get in, but I still got a lift over.
The place is buzzing. The socials at Go Football Show, people are on. Both sides seem to be happy. Celtic fans looking forward to it, to the Champions League, and Rangers fans, they can almost touch it, Barry. And you think PSV over the next 2 weeks, Rangers can and will win?
Yeah, they can win. It's going to be a toughie. Look, I'm not going to sit here and lie. PSV are there for a reason, because they're a very good team. They've got a manager who's played top level, and you just need to look at their players they've got in the current team. Man United are trying to sign one of the wingers. There's been another 3 or 4 of their players linked with Premier League clubs, so Rangers are going to be in for a tough one. But I firmly believe, whether it's Rangers or Celtic, whatever team comes to Glasgow, they'll struggle. Away from home's a different matter. You might need to go and change formation or shape or whatever way you want to say it, but they're 180 minutes away from being in the elite against the top teams, top players, top managers. So that's enough for you to go out there and give it everything you've got. As long as they do that, they can come in after the game, look themselves in the mirror and say they've gave it everything, because everybody can have an off night. I think it should be a given.
Well, here's
You've
one
got
of
to
our
go out there and
callers.
give it
Yeah,
everything.
one of our callers on who is looking forward to Champions League. Reagan, a Celtic fan. Good evening, Reagan.
Paul, how you doing? All right?
Yeah,
Hi,
we're
Reagan.
great. Really good. Thank you. You?
I doing well.
Good man.
I'm just enjoying this Glasgow weather, Paul.
Oh, isn't it fantastic? I know the Costa del Clyde here. Yeah.
Lovely.
Here on Go Radio. So, what are you thinking? You pleased for Rangers last night?
I thought Rangers played well. I actually watched the game because some of my family are Rangers fans. Some of them. So I watched it, but it was just a general point I wanted to ask Peter and Barry about Rangers and Celtic. From you guys, what teams do you want to see Celtic and Rangers play if you had a choice?
Good question, Reagan. Peter's first in there. Yeah.
You would hope to try and get the weakest one for me, in your section, but there is no weak ones, and that's what that's people talk about what Real Madrid and Barcelona. They are fantastic games, but I think we've got to get to that stage that we want to try and get through. So if I could have the weakest group, I would cry for that. I would say yes, I'll accept that all day long, because you want to have an opportunity to get through, and I think then it's very, very difficult to get weak teams, as I said to you previously, but I would definitely take the weakest group we possibly could, because you want to save the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas for the next stage, and hopefully one of these days we're going to get through the group stage.
Barry, you know the names better than I do, but look at some of them looking at the pots. Pot 2, Atletico Madrid, Seville, RB Leipzig, Tottenham. Pot 1, Bayern Munich, PSG, Porto, Ajax. Pot 3, Napoli, Sporting, Bayern Leverkusen, Olympique Marseille.
I mean, that's tough.
I haven't mentioned
even,
Man City.
Yeah, even pot
Liverpool,
3.
yeah.
What was pot 3 you just mentioned there?
Yeah, I think there's too many to me. It's so there's some
They're
great teams in there.
teams.
Yeah,
they're quality teams. Listen, it's going to be a big ask for Celtic, who are already in the Champions League, and if Rangers get there, it's going to be a big ask for both clubs. But listen, it's are you going to get any weak teams in the group?
Exactly.
That's the problem you've
Exactly.
got, because the teams that you've just mentioned there,
Olympique Marseille,
they're filled with
Napoli,
quality players.
Yeah.
You hope they're going to lose some of their players. That's what you're hoping, Regan. You're hoping that some of these teams are going to lose some of their players. The Rangers supporters will be looking and hope PSV sell like 4 players, because then they'll be weaker. You know, it's Marseille, are they going to lose a few of their players? And you're always looking for that. It becomes completely different. You'll say Celtic Rangers are probably looking to bring people in, not lose players at this moment in time, so you know roughly what their squad's going to be. So you're always looking for that wee chink to give you in their armour that you think, well, we could win that game. And I think in Glasgow, against any of the teams, you've always got an opportunity. Going away, they're all fantastic places to go and play, really difficult places to go and play. But as you say, I would like to get the so-called weakest ones, which there's not many of them to say.
Sure.
You know,
Who would you like, Regan?
Real Madrid, Barry.
Regan, that's what everyone's saying, isn't it? Everyone wants Real Madrid back. It's been too long.
Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Because I think Celtic get Barcelona too often. I know I'm saying that, Paul, but they get Barcelona a lot, and I think it would just be good to see some proper good football teams coming to Celtic Park.
I know what you mean. I'm the only one around that remembers and was at the game. Real Madrid the last time.
Talking before we came on air about a certain player that plays with Real Madrid, Modric. I could watch him all day long. What a football player that guy is. And at his age, he's still one of the best.
Phenomenal, isn't he?
Phenomenal player. As you say, you're talking about Real Madrid. I was there, Laurie Cunningham, God rest him. All them were all playing. I was in the ground staff at Celtic at 15, 16. I was actually privileged of training with him. And that before that game.
I interviewed Laurie Cunningham, as you mentioned.
Before that game.
Laurie. Did you? So you trained?
I trained up at Barrowfield with him. I trained at Barrowfield with him that day. Wow. And Celtic had a great result at home. A fantastic chance in the Bernabeu. I think it was George McCluskey, to make it 3-0. As in 2-0 for the first leg, then could go 3-0, and then ended up losing the game 3-0.
Yeah. The referee was questionable that night, wasn't he?
That's not unusual.
No, but he was. I mean, I do remember.
Yeah.
Listen, we've got someone else here on the line. I just can't quite see who it is. Good evening.
Hello.
Who's that?
It's Daniel from Musher.
Hello, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Right, you're on with Regan, and you're on with Peter Grant, Barry Ferguson, and myself. What's your point, Daniel? Good evening. Yeah, good. Thanks. You. What are you thinking?
Not too bad. Obviously, I would go with Regan's one way. Obviously, with a team, I would love to see Rangers go up against Ajax to see how they would fare with Bassey. Going up against his own club. That would be good.
Oh, that's tasty. Barry's smiling.
Yeah, that's a brilliant shout.
Yeah.
He's not got off to the best of starts, getting sent off. But listen, I think in time. I mean, he showed last season. I would have loved to have seen him stay, but you cannot knock back that sort of money for a guy you paid 200 grand for. But listen, that's a great shout for Daniel,
isn't it?
But listen, it's Barry and Daniel not saying they're talking about Regan, talking about the names of these teams coming to Glasgow. That's what we're talking about. That's why we want both teams to be there, because you're getting other clubs, all these other clubs coming to Glasgow, and the names you're mentioning. Phenomenal. Put hairs in the back of your neck standing up.
Daniel, stay with us. We're going to go back to you in a second or two. Regan, it's obviously been mainly about Rangers this week. For Celtic, things good with you? Have you got any worries, any concerns?
No, just I would like to see Celtic go and strengthen in the midfield area, Paul. A general point I want to ask Peter and Barry, right? But Barry and Peter have managed in the lower leagues in Scotland, and I think I was quite disappointed to see that the Scottish Premiership fixtures this weekend. I think the Aberdeen game was 28 quid. The Rangers game was 31 quid.
Yeah.
And the Motherwell game was 27 quid. I think we should be trying to get in these games 10 quid for a person to go. I think it's too expensive.
Well, the cost of living crisis is very real, Reagan. That's a great point you make, isn't it?
If you,
It is.
I mean, it is a brilliant point. Genuinely, if a father's taking his 2 kids, and then they want a juice, they want a pie, they want a packet of cricket,
The travel.
it's an absolute fortune to go to football.
It's over
Nowadays.
£100, isn't it?
Yeah, they should be trying to look. I understand clubs need to get money in.
Sure.
I get that, but they should be trying to come up with some sort of solution to make it slightly cheaper than that, because that's a lot of money. And as you said, Paul, the cost of living.
Well, I think, Barry, if I'm right, last season and the seasons previous, I think last season the latest was Bayern Munich was £100 for a season book.
Oh, for the book,
For
for
a
the
season book.
Wow.
£100 for a season book.
£100. And then you wonder why all the German stadiums are full. You know, it's phenomenal. And I understand that. There's Fulham opened a part of their stadium the other day. Their new stand was open. I was working at Fulham. £65 was the cheapest ticket you had, and they were all going crazy. £65 was the cheapest ticket, and I think for a child at 15 was £35. So we think it's dear up here, which it is very much so. But then you look at Bayern Munich and you look at the German stadiums, which I love watching the German football for the atmosphere that's in it. But you can see the reason why. That's why, was it Red Bull, why they didn't like Red Bull, because they felt they were doing it completely different. But that's why they were talking about the fan ownership sort of thing, and it was £100, I think it is, for a season book at Bayern Munich.
Reagan, I don't know the answer to it, but it's a really good point you make,
Absolutely.
because the crowds are good in Scotland. You know, Celtic, Rangers sell out. Obviously, the season
Look at
tickets have all
United
gone.
last week.
Wasn't that brilliant?
Yeah,
A full
it was
house.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Sitting down to watch the AZ game and seeing Tannadice full. When I can't recall, maybe the Dundee derby, but that's what I used to remember it like. Full houses.
Well, I bumped into another Rangers captain yesterday morning, Richard Gough, asking for you. And in his days there under Jim McLean, before he went to Tottenham and then Rangers, they got full nights in Europe. It's great to see that. You'll remember that, Peter.
I never played at Tannadice. You couldn't get a ticket for Tannadice.
Really?
I never ever played. Tannadice was full. Every time I played there in my career, it was full. But that was every stadium in Scotland. And that's what disappoints me coming back up. Every stadium was full, no matter what. Away, when we played away from home, it was very difficult. Celtic supporters' buses used to go up to listen to the game at Aberdeen because the supporters couldn't get in because there was no tickets. But the full stadium was full, you know. And that was always away from home, was always like that. And in Scotland, whether you went to Fir Park, whatever, the stadiums were full. And part of the reason was the prices were okay. You could lift your boy over. Now everything's, I know for safety, I understand safety reasons now, I understand all that, but definitely it makes a hell of a difference when you make it cheaper, because they are the future. Boys and girls, we see how England have done with the women's football, you know, recently, and how everybody wants to go and watch the football, and the fans are coming back to that. So why can't we do that in Scotland? And clubs look at it in this particular period and say it's so difficult. It's a release for people to go and watch their club. But if they can't do that, what else are they releasing?
That's their life.
That's absolutely.
It's their life. They live for the weekend to go and support their teams and go with their mates or go with their kids.
That was it.
All of us in our families,
We were at Fir Park. Look at Fir Park, the atmosphere at Fir Park against Sligo.
Yeah, I know.
I was watching it on TV.
7,500 people.
Brilliant.
Yeah, as I said last night, it was brilliant up until kick-off, and then Motherwell were unbelievable. Daniel, do you agree with what Reagan's saying about the prices?
Totally agree. Obviously, for the likes of that, obviously I know the clubs need to get money through the doors. Obviously, due to COVID, we're losing a bit. But at the same time, as you were saying there, I think to make it a wee bit more affordable for some that can't get to the games. Because as I say, it would be good to get likes of packed houses again.
Yep.
But aye, for some of the prices, and I know what Peter was saying there down south, it would be better.
Listen, great point there, Reagan. Thanks very much. We'll speak to you soon. Enjoy the football. Always making great points there. For you, Daniel, what are you thinking then after Rangers last night? Because you must have been worried this time last week.
Because obviously, with Union, they looked as though, before half time, they looked as though they were coming into the game, they were settling. They kind of made. They were kind of making it a wee bit harder for us, if you know what I mean. And then obviously the penalty, which to some, they'll all be sitting there going, typical penalty at Rangers.
No, that was only me. I was dancing about 11 when it was given.
last night. Obviously, for the likes of Tillman, stunning, absolutely brilliant performance. John Lundstrom, again, another great performance. I thought who had an absolute cracker would be Tom Lawrence. I thought he'd an absolute brilliant game last night. But there was one player last night for me that he was a wee bit hot and cold, Barisic, but what an absolute delivery that is for Tillman. I think half a dozen folk in the stadium last night must have been wondering where the hell was he putting that ball. But hey, fair play to Tillman for actually getting up there and finishing it, because it's no easy finish to keep your eyes on the ball for that long to go for it. But aye,
yeah,
it was good.
Listen, Barry's eyebrow went up there. That is a good point about Barisic supplying two of the goals.
Yeah, but I want to see more from him.
In what way?
I want him to be more positive, because he's got it in him. I just felt sometimes when he was receiving the ball for Sands, who was playing left centre half, his first touch was back away when he had space in front of him to go and open his body and drive 10 or 15 yards, or go and make a run beyond Ryan Kent. I just feel there's more to come for him, and he's frustrating me at times, Barisic, because there's no doubt there's a player in there. He's proved it. I mean, he's got a one-day left peg. Some of the balls he whips in, and for set pieces he's excellent, but I just want to see more from him. I don't know if it's a confidence thing.
He's a Croatian international.
Yeah, listen, he is. You're right, he's played in big games. I don't know if it's a confidence thing with him. Maybe with Yilmaz coming in for big money, £5 million, that might give him a kick up the backside and think, right here, I've got competition now, I need to raise my game. Because there's certainly a player in Barisic, but for me, he just frustrates me, because I think he's got more to give.
I think that's right. And we spoke about it earlier on about handling the tough times. And as I say, if we go back to the Celtic game last year, and they say that was probably his worst performance and whatever, and he's probably not recovered from that. So it does take you a little bit of time. People say I'd maybe had it for 10 years trying to recover that performance. But no, but as I say, sometimes it is. You get to that stage and you're trying to get yourself in, you're trying to play safe, you're trying to make sure everything's perfect, instead of just playing with that freedom, as you say, probably played with at the start when he came. You know, it's trying to play with that freedom again. And that maybe take, as you say, maybe one great cross ball, all of a sudden everything starts to flow back. He's had a different partner in front of him, he's had different shapes playing in front of him, and it's probably not suited him at certain times. But as you say, once that comes back with him, and listen, playing in the more games he plays, and you're hoping he's going to get better with the pressure of Yilmaz coming against him, obviously.
Yeah, because he's proven.
Absolutely.
Sure.
He's a real good player, and that's what frustrates me with him, because I know there's a top left back in there. I just want to see more from him. As I say, he's got a one-day left peg. So, I mean, you could question sometimes defensively, but going forward, when he's on his game, and some of the balls that he can deliver into the box, he's a real danger. And as I said, now with Yilmaz coming in for £5 million, maybe that's what he's needed, that competition.
And can we mention Antonio Colak? You know, he got that goal that was so important last night.
Yeah.
Everyone talked about Morelos in advance, and it was good to have him there. He came on for a little bit, but Colak got a goal.
Yeah, again, he worked. Sometimes, this might sound crazy, sometimes I think he does too much. I think he's trying to impress. His workload, he's running all over the place. Sometimes as a centre forward, just stay centrally at times. But listen,
was he chasing too much?
I feel for him, because he's not getting loads of service, but when the services come into him, he showed that he knows where the back of the net is.
Well, see, even on that, Barry, the point, see when the ball gets switched over, it's played in first time, it's went behind him. But he's made a great run between the two defenders. So he's right in front of the goalkeeper. But then he's adjusted to get himself back on side when the ball's come off the goalkeeper. And that's good striker play. We talk about Haaland, who looks phenomenal, but every run he makes is between defenders. And to be fair to Colak, on the first one, I don't think he get the credit, because he ran the guys in that allowed the space for Arfield to arrive into. So he's dragged the defenders back. And as I say, he's adjusted really well when the ball's come off the goalkeeper. And that's great striker play. He said, what is that, 2 goals, 2 games?
Yep.
Yeah, again on Saturday, he never really get involved in the game, and a few of my mates text, I'm not sure about Colak, and his one chance he got, bang, he took it in the back of the net.
Daniel, quick word finally. Final thoughts about next week?
It's going to be a tough one, but hopefully we can get out of the line and go for it. it's good to have all the boys back fit again, which is good. It's good to see Morelos coming back. He looked as though he was almost close to getting a couple of goals last night. But no, definitely, I think we're looking in a good position.
And they'll work him hard, get him fitter. He needs game time.
He'll be getting worked hard on the training ground. There's no doubt. I'm sure Gio will get him back to the level that he got him back when he came in.
Daniel, thanks for calling.
Cheers, Daniel.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland. Let's go!
Go Radio Football Show with Macklin Motors, Barry Ferguson, Paul Cooney, Peter Grant. Just some of the other things on the go today. It's not definite, but Burnley might be keen to sign Fashion Sakala. Reports of a £3 million bid to come. Peter, could you see that happening?
Yeah,
Vincent Kompany?
well, he's not really taken part when Morelos has not been fit. You know, Colak's come in, he's used different systems and not used him. So, and Kompany seems to be signing a few boys he knows from Belgium, and we know that obviously Sakala played in Belgium. So, and he's lost a big striker to West Ham United,
Barry
Corney.
He had a good start, didn't he, pre-season last year? 9 goals last year.
I always say as a way when Rangers signed him, he was a work in progress. You could see there was, listen, he's got genuine raw pace, and he's the type of player I think you need a wee bit of patience, bit of work on the training ground. But this season he's not been really involved. I know he had an injury, that's why he wasn't in the squad at the weekend, but he was involved last night. He looks as if he's down the pecking order. So there could be truth in that if an offer comes in that's suitable. I don't know what Rangers paid for him. Was it £1.5 million, something in that kind of region? So if Burnley are coming in with that sort of offer, it's maybe one that Gio will look to do, because as I said, it looks as if he's going to struggle for game time at Rangers.
Chelsea and Man United, there were reports today that they're monitoring Juranovic. We know that Leicester City were reported to be interested in him, but they've not made any signings. But sources close to him are saying, nope, he's going nowhere. He's at Celtic and he's going to be in the Champions League.
But it's great, because, and I keep saying that, you want Celtic Rangers players to be getting tipped all over the Premier League. And if you're talking about Manchester United and Chelsea, that's the levels you want to be selling your players. That means the clubs here are doing exceptionally well. Bassi, Ajax, 20 million. Brilliant, fantastic, and the only way you do that is being successful. Rangers done it last year with the European side of it. Juranovic come in and done it with Celtic, being champions, obviously, and playing exceptionally well in other games. And that's what you want, the best players. You're always wanting that. If you're a manager, you're a club, you want everybody to be coming to try and poach your players, because that means you're playing really, really well.
I like him.
Yeah. What do you like about him? His smile,
bundle of energy.
He's
a real bundle of energy, but he's got real good quality as well. Again, another player that I didn't know too much about, but he certainly impressed me last season with his performances. And look, if you do really well and you produce high levels up here, there's always going to be teams down in England sniffing about.
Across the city, a striker who arrived last season as well was Jacomacus, and he's been speaking today saying he's going to score even more goals for Celtic, and he was the top scorer for them last season, Peter. So that's music to your ears. What do you like so much about him? Obviously his goals.
Well, I've been a big supporter of him, and as I said, his great best goal was against Barry at Alloa, because he'd made that run so often and never get a cross in, and that was the first time that cross had come in early. And Celtic didn't play that particular way. As you say, Jota was out there predominantly come back, but it was a left foot. I think it's a young boy. It was in loan at Aberdeen now. Put the cross in. Skills put the cross in early across the front. But he made that run so often, and people were critical. Oh, he doesn't get in the box. And I'm like, he made fantastic runs as a striker. So I was delighted for him, because I thought he deserved. He's completely different from the other boys. He's something that I think you always have to have round about your group. He's got that warrior instinct. Centre halves will not like playing against him, but he wants to score, and that's a fantastic trait to have as a striker, and I've been really impressed with him.
To be honest with you, I wasn't sure about him, but as the season went on, obviously missed pre-season, bit of catch up, but the more game time he got, he knows where the back of the net is. You need to watch him. His movement inside the box, he's a predator.
Absolutely,
that's what he is. And with some of his finishes last season, you could see that the reason why Postecoglou tried to get him. And he'll be frustrated no starting.
Well, Barry, the thing is, I said many times, you can't play in the Dutch league and be the top goal scorer and get relegated.
In the most bizarre circumstances, because they were relegated.
Absolutely.
How
And
does
that's
that work?
very, very difficult, you know.
Great point.
Very difficult. You know, so that shows you the type of striker he is, because every chance they must have been getting, he must have been scoring, because they weren't getting that many chances if they get relegated. That's for sure. You know, so great credit to him, and he's came here, and great credit to Celtic for taking him as well. You know, but the boy's done himself justice, and he'll find not to be starting at this moment in time, but he's got no bad player in front of him in Kyogo.
But
you know,
he does know where the back of the poke is. He does. That's for sure.
I love it. Can only happen here in the Go Radio Football Show. He knows at the back of the pokey.
Well, the back of the net.
I love it. Absolutely. So 3 Lanarkshire boys here. Celtic target Alex Collado looks as though he's not coming to Celtic, Peter. There's interest elsewhere.
Yeah, listen, people obviously raise their eyebrow when they say Barcelona. Everybody thinks they're Xavi, Iniesta, whatever. You know, there's some not so good players come out of Barcelona as well. You know, and they get moved to a lot of clubs, and I understand that. You know, and listen, they're talking about Elche now, but to be fair, I think Celtic wise in the middle of the pitch, unless God forbid that they get injuries, I think they're strong enough in there anyway.
Celtic up against Kilmarnock on Sunday. Hearts against Dundee United then, because obviously Dundee United tomorrow night. I want to ask you about that, the game against AZ Alkmaar. And Saturday, Aberdeen against Motherwell, with that great point earlier about the admission price. Motherwell still no manager, but it looks as well, I don't know if it for sure, a short lead of 3, Barry. They're saying, in fact, it's Craigs last night who mentioned for the first time, I hadn't heard it, it was the Finn, Simo Valakari.
Yeah, I played against him.
Of course.
Yeah.
Was he a decent player?
Yeah, he was a kind of a dog in the middle of the pitch,
Right.
Simo. But the Motherwell fan will remember he was right up for a scrap. Listen, you get in your face, and I seen that actually yesterday. He's got experience as a manager, but going in Motherwell, they need to get something sorted. We spoke about it on Monday. Stephen O'Donnell saying, "Oh, we need to get players in before we get a manager." No, you need to get a manager in, so he can then sign the players.
And they need both. But you're right. There's no point in signing players.
You can't
without
sign
the
players,
manager.
and the manager might come and say, "Oh, I don't fancy him."
You. Andy Dibble has left because he had just come in, hadn't he? Under Graham Alexander as goalkeeping coach. You know, Officer Dibble.
Yeah, he come up. He was in loan. I was only an apprentice at Rangers when he came up on loan.
Was he a good keeper?
Yeah, he was. He came in and done a job. Man City was his
main club.
Yeah, his main club.
He had a big reputation in that time.
Did you get it there, Peter? Officer Dibble?
Grew up.
Was that for Top Cat, wasn't it?
Brilliant. One of my favourites.
James, did you get that? Top Cat? No, he hasn't.
One of the best programmes ever,
wasn't it? Did you know it, Barry? Yeah, Top Cat.
Oh.
All right, okay.
That was one of the people for Bilko, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it?
Bilko.
Right, okay. For Motherwell,
that was one of the voices.
That's right. Yep.
Did you see Lambert was getting mentioned, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, but I think it's been.
Did you see Stephen Hamill's interview after the game? Just straight.
Yeah.
I quite liked that. No messing about. He wasn't trying to paper over the cracks. He just says it's not good enough. They need to get better, or it's going to be a long, hard season for Motherwell.
It sounded as though they were willing for them to win at the weekend, and then that'd be 2 wins in a row, and they would have given him the job, Barry.
Yeah, I did think that Motherwell would get the result, but I mean, I seen Motherwell both games against Sligo, and I even seen the game at St Mirren. They struggled a bit. They do need to get a manager in place as soon as possible. And what is that now? What?
Yep,
2.5 weeks,
3
weeks
days.
left to the window. They need to
4 hours.
They need to get players in to get into the starting 11.
The name of Neil Lennon came up yesterday. We don't know. There's one other candidate. Apparently there's a short list of 3. There was a Zoom call today with candidates. Could you see any way that Neil Lennon would be back at Motherwell?
Yeah, of course. Scottish game compared to the Cypriot game. We want to put the Scottish game on. We want the best people involved. Neil's done it with Hibs and Celtic. You know, he's been round about that. He understands that, and he knows Motherwell very well, obviously. So I agree with Barry. It's very difficult. We all know what Motherwell need, but you can't go even to the lower reaches in England and get that striker that everybody's desperate for. You know, I know Van Veen, but they've got Van Veen. They lost Woolery, who's got a hell of a lot of pace. You know, obviously wasn't a great finisher because you've seen that with the stats last year, but had great pace, could take them up the pitch, could win them the odd game now and again. So they lost all that, and that's very, very difficult. You know, they've a few injury problems, but you've not got a manager, you've nobody steering that. And I know Stevie's in there doing as well as he can. He's got a lot of experience with the younger boys, but that's very difficult when you're not. But even to get the players to buy in, because they're thinking to themselves, well, you're not the manager, you know, and that's very, very difficult. So I definitely think for Motherwell, and I hope they do, because obviously everybody wants a strong league, and we want the managers, obviously the best managers, to come and work in Scotland.
Sure, especially West of Scotland team, and they'll want to move as soon as he'll want to move on some of the players, won't he? Clearly, if he can, while the window's open.
Yeah, and ideally you would want to get the new manager in place for the game up at Pittodrie on Saturday. And it's a good point Peter makes there. Stevie's a legend at the club, but was a brilliant player for Motherwell. He's been in the academy side for 5 years. He's got the experience on the training field, but as a player you're looking and thinking, well, he's not a manager. Really, they need a focal point inside that dressing room, and the quicker they get it done, the better for Motherwell.
And if they gave it to Stevie, at least they're answerable to him then. When Stevie makes a decision, it's him that's making it as a manager, not as interim or whatever. And it's difficult. I mean, I was at Fulham and I'd done it for three games, and it's very difficult because I've tell them don't want the job right for the word go when Felix went. But the next 3 games, I'm picking the teams, but I'm leaving the players out. Big stars at this particular time, you're leaving them out. But I know in the background, I think, well, he's not really the manager. It doesn't matter what happens. 3 games down the line, he's not going to be the manager anyway because he doesn't want the job.
So you were offered the job?
No, I wasn't offered the job. No, but I told him right for the start, I didn't want the job.
Yeah.
I didn't want that job because Felix had brought me in, and I was only one of all the staff that kept on. You know, and I loved Fulham. Fulham was a fantastic club, loved every moment of it. But I felt it was important because Felix had brought me in at that particular time.
Great start for them against Liverpool. Didn't see that one coming, did they?
But they've done brilliant. You know, young Sessegnon doing well at Tottenham and all these boys. You got Matt Riley, Big Maurice Jens.
Yeah.
That was all the team. You know, when I was there. So they've done fantastically well through it, you know. So, but just to say the prices are too high, obviously. You're going to watch the game.
Sure are. Well, so much money's going to the players, but with 2
you never
ex-players
to stay in Fulham.
You do, don't you? I'll never know. It'll never happen. It's a kind of fashionable club, isn't it? A lot of them like to go along to Fulham. You know, for an unfashionable club, a lot of people like to go there.
Well, that's the
to
problem, Paul.
Cottage.
But that's the problem. That's what they're saying. It's for the tourists. These prices are for tourists. You know, and it takes away the supporters, who are the most important people at any football club, because we're all passing through. Always remember that. We're only passing through. The supporters are the most important. They're always there.
It's not the case in Scotland, but if this was in London, for example, so much of this money, you know, the prices that we talked about earlier on, the money goes straight back to the players, doesn't it? You know, we look at the salaries now. De Bruyne, what, 375,000 a week? He's a wonderful player, but who needs 375,000 a week? And I don't blame the players, but it's just going up and up and up. And how can these clubs sustain it?
Well, you get back, Paul, and I'll laugh you because you read about some of the Lisbon lines on £100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They must have been laughing when I was on £200 30 years later. You know, saying
300 you were on.
No. That's why I stayed out month-to-month contracts. But you know what I mean? Because it just grows and grows and grows.
Sure.
There's nobody can explain it, but the clubs can't complain about it. It's like the De Jong situation. How can they complain after doing it? You know, they gave him the money.
Yeah.
So the kid, at the end of the day, okay, I'll sign for that. Who wouldn't sign for it? You know, and I would never complain about anybody earning money, no matter what job they do, because I've worked hard for it.
How long were you on the ground staff for? When you started to play in the first team, how long were you still doing the boots and all the rest?
I played 100 games in the first team, I think, over about 100 games, and I was still on the ground staff. So I was champing the door on the Saturday after the game for boys that weren't playing. I was picking their gear up, who weren't even in the squad, and I was playing the full 90 minutes.
What age were you, 17, 18?
17, 18, yeah.
Wow. Barry, you still on the ground staff?
18.
Playing 18?
Yep.
Yeah.
18.
Best days of your life, wasn't it?
Yeah, and listen, learned so much as an apprentice, having to stay behind when I was training in the first team, but it didn't make a difference.
No?
I had to stay behind to 5, 6 in the evening, make sure all the apprentice, all the ground staff had to have all their jobs done before you were allowed to leave. And do you know what a grounding it was for us.
Do you know what they really taught you? I love this story that Walter Smith and Archie Knox especially, you make great toast. Is that true? Tell Peter.
Toast and tea.
Yeah, toast and tea.
Do you know what? Just Archie. I used to have seriously bad dreams about Archie Knox.
What did he do? Because Peter was down south when you told us this. 2 years ago.
I've done the staff room, and obviously I had to get the cat a bit in the mornings. They like to remember the big silver urns.
Yeah.
So
He still got them.
yeah, and toast. So that was for like Walter, Archie, David Dodds,
Oh, yeah.
John Mcgregor and John Brown. So I had to go up, make the toast. Well, the kitchen staff helped me. So because you had to have, for 6 of them, there was about 20 slices of toast. So I would bring it down. It would either be soggy, it'd be not enough butter on it. So he made me walk up and down the stairs 4 or 5 times. And then when the toast was all right, by the time I'd made 4 or 5 rounds of toast, the tea was stewed. So he would make me go up and do it. No, I only want 4 tea bags. You put 5 tea bags in that. But do you know what? It was just to see how I could handle.
Absolutely.
I would handle it. And do you know what? I look back at the time, I used to, honestly. Archie was just.
You laugh about that, but the funny thing was when you stayed to 5 or 6 o'clock, bear in mind you're in the first team, then you were down to wait in the bus. Could you imagine the boys now going down to wait in the bus?
You were getting the bus?
I was getting the 35, which was only came an hour and 15 minutes always.
The 35, where did that go to?
Edinburgh.
Oh,
all the way.
green bus.
Yeah, all
Peter
the big
waits for
double
the green
decker.
bus.
The big double decker. The big double decker. And used to be standing panicking at 6 o'clock, and you were in the first team and still getting the bus back.
I was
part
round to the underground into Argyle Street then train.
I didn't even know there was an underground in Glasgow till about 2 weeks ago.
Did you think of those days when you were in the Bentley and all that? Then think this is how it started back in the. Peter, who were you doing it for then? Was it Neil Lee Mockin and
Neil
all that?
Mockin. An absolute legend of a man. An absolute legend. I know he was as a player and that, but what a funny man. And the best tricks in the world used to put the Vaseline on the forehead and bounce the ping pong ball, catch on his head. And Paolo Di Canio, I remember Paolo looking at it and thinking, what's going on here? And then Paolo's trying it, but couldn't get it. He didn't realise that Neil had put Vaseline on his head and the ball was sticking on his head. Wee things like that, you know. And the old ones go and get the long stand, going over to the stand and go for the long stand. Get that. You'd be over there for an hour waiting, like the groundsman coming back, and it was a long stand you were waiting on. That's you had your long stand away back. You've been waiting an hour. Wee things like that.
But you see, on the ground staff, they done these things to test you.
Absolutely.
It was a test of your character. As I said, I used to go back sometimes in that underground. Then the train for Argyle Street to Bell, so I used to think to myself, I don't know if I want to do this.
You thought of chucking it at one point, didn't you?
I didn't know. They're the things that go through your head, and you used to go in, and your mum and dad were like, I'm away at my bed and sleep off. But then you would get up in the morning, away back in.
What would have happened if he'd chucked it? Can you imagine it?
No, I was never going to.
No, I know.
No way. It's character building. That's what I call it.
It was the best days of my life.
Really?
I loved it. I didn't want to come off. I didn't want to come off it, even though I was in the first team. I didn't want to come off. I loved cleaning their boots and I loved the environment to be in amongst it all day, every day.
All right, I'll have a cup of tea. James, I'll have a coffee.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland. Let's go!
This time tomorrow night it's going to be preparations for Dundee United against AZ Alkmaar. United 1-up from last week, and Scottish football bouncing after Rangers winning 3-0 last night against Union Saint-Gilloise. Probably the last time I'll say the full thing. Union. How was Tam saying it last night? Was it good? Yeah,
he was saying Union Bears.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
See, no, I actually watched Rangers. I just laugh through it. He's some man. He's some man. I told you about the Ross County. I was watching the game.
Go on,
Kilmarnock, and obviously
this was at the weekend. Yep.
Yeah, Celtic were 1-0 up, and then next thing, there's a goal in Dingwall. Ross County won. Rangers won, and then obviously Jens, am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah.
He scores 6 minutes to go, and he's like, there's been a goal at Dingwall. He's brilliant.
Go Radio Football Show. That's Barry Ferguson, Peter Grant and Paul Cooney. Thanks for everyone calling in tonight talking about last night and looking forward to PSV. We'll build up between now and next Tuesday, 2 weeks tonight. Barry, any chance of checking with James? Could we be there, do you think, over in Holland? No, James says no right away. So the boogie bus is going nowhere. It never has done, but it's going to be some night. The £40 million game. The 2 games coming up over the next couple of weeks. What about Dundee United tomorrow night, Peter? We talked earlier on about full houses, and that's what they got at Tannadice last week. At the weekend, they were back to.
I think you could see that in their performance last week.
Yeah.
You know, the performance in midweek was excellent. You know, they had a full house. Some of the players will have never experienced that, you know, and it was a real good performance with them, you know. But it's a real tough game. That game's definitely not over yet. You know, they'll have to be backs against the wall. You know, you'll need big performances for your experienced players like Charlie Mulgrew, Fletcher. These will all need to be come to the party. And they're more than capable with the quality these guys have got, but it'll be a very, very tough game. It'll be an excellent result for Scottish football if they manage to get through that, because I think it'll be a tough call.
Can they do it?
I don't think so.
Going to be just too tough.
I just think Alkmaar are just got a little bit more quality.
It's a tough ask. Look, Dundee United I thought were excellent last Thursday. If Dundee United have got any chance of getting through, the 11 players that are on that pitch plus the subs have got to bring their A game. because it could be a long night. It'd be great to see them get through, but I think it's going to be a tough one for Dundee United.
You like the look of United this season, though, albeit.
Yeah, I like the boy Levitt in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant upbringing, obviously, at Manchester United. You don't last there for 5 or so years if you're not a good footballer. Fletcher, I was so impressed with him last Thursday. 35, you're maybe thinking, is his legs going to be there? But they were there, certainly. Charlie Mulgrew, as Peter just mentioned, the experience at the back. The Australian goalkeeper they brought in impressed me. Middleton, again, if he shows that on a consistent basis, he could be a big threat for them. So Jack's building a decent squad up there, but in terms of tomorrow night, every single player needs to bring their A game if they want to progress.
Glenn Middleton, that's what he needs, isn't it? That goal last week would give him big confidence because everyone knows he's got talent.
Well, I've known Glenn for a long time. When he was at Norwich, he played along with Raymond, so they were big pals and whatever. So I'd watched him growing up as a kid, and doing exceptionally well. Great pace, direct. And you've got to remember, when he was playing with Rangers at the start under Gerrard in the European games, he always had a massive effect in the games. I felt, he'd done really well in the early parts. And he thought he was going to kick on. He's got blistering pace. He's one of these guys. He's very direct. I like him on the left because I think he knocks the ball by and delivers. And there's not a lot of wingers do that now. They'll want to come back inside and play because they don't need to go by fullback. But when Glenn played out there, especially as a youngster, I liked him on the left because he would knock the ball by and deliver you. And if you somebody like Fletcher who's fantastic in the air and good at getting across centre backs, that could be one of the routes they could get to getting that goal, and hopefully that will be the case.
Yeah, I said that last week. What Glenn's needed over the last couple of years, he's been through it and loan and back. He needs a home. Yeah. And he's got that now. He's got that bit of security with Dundee United for 3 years now. He needs a bit of, he strikes me, he needs an arm round about him, a bit of loving. Some players you can just let go on with. He needs maybe that. But he showed in the Thursday night. I mean, what a goal for Dundee United. Keeper rolls it out, Diag for Levitt. And then Middleton doing what he should be doing on a more consistent basis. So he's shown in the short period of time he's been at Dundee United that it's in there. He just needs to bring it more often.
We're going to go back and hear more from GVB in a second or two. A moment ago, Peter, to your right on Sky there was somebody's got a Scottish Cup winners medal, league medal as well. Patrick Roberts. Yeah. Obviously Sheffield Wednesday against Sunderland, the preview.
Well, Pat was at Fulham.
Yeah.
Again.
You've had everyone.
Yeah, well, Pat was there with Matt and all them,
Yeah.
Moritz and all that. That was all the squad of players we had, So, and to be fair to Felix loved young players because he gave so many. He gave Neuer and all that their debuts. He wasn't one for experienced players in the respect. He loved the young ones. I thought there was too many of them in the squad at the one time. Yeah. Because it was like a youth team becoming the first team, and it was just too much. And unfortunately, Felix didn't last that long then in the Championship, because the Championship's a completely different beast. Sure. But they were all excellent players, very well brought up.
Patrick Roberts, are you surprised that he hasn't done more in the game?
Yes, my biggest problem with Patrick was always the same thing that I always used to say to him: he has to have a different trick, because he was brilliant at coming up, taking inside you and seeing that, but I didn't think he lifted his head enough for that final pass. And I thought that too many times. And I think we sold him for about £10 million to Manchester City or something at that particular time.
And then he went on loan twice to Celtic.
Absolutely, and that was that connection with Manchester City, obviously the City group. But he had talent, there's no doubt of that. And he will be disappointed that he's not been more consistent. As Barry says about Glenn, he needs to find a home where he's a starter week in, week out. But as I say, he had to bring something else to the game, because he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the strongest. No. So if people start to read you, full-backs start to read you, especially in the Championship in England, they'll just bump you out the road.
He had a great partnership on the park with Kieran Tierney, didn't he? And the two of them got on so well. Remember at the cup final, Tierney went away and got the stitches and all the rest, and then came back. Were you surprised Patrick Roberts didn't do more? Yeah, because when he came up to Glasgow, you could see there was a player in there. Yeah. But again, he's similar. Peter's just mentioned that he's one of the ones where he's floated about too long. And I mean, I noticed Sunderland, he's been on the bench there. If he's at a club like that, he's got to be playing week in, week out. He's certainly got the tools. As I said, he's at an age now. I mean, I don't know, what is he, 25, 26 now? He's not a young.
Well, you look at
a young boy now.
We're talking about Abad, aren't we, Barry? We're saying he's very direct. He's 20 years of age. He looks a right player, but he's 20 years of age, and that's, we spoke about it last week. I think age, all of a sudden, we've got to take that out there. But Pat's, we keep forgetting that Pat is that age now. Whether they're saying 24, 25, 26, I don't know what he is. So he's not a baby anymore. and he's been about too long. Where Abada's went in at 20 years of age and is doing fantastically well at 20 years of age and looking a right top player, a right goal threat for Celtic, you know.
I tell you what, you two know your stuff. He's 25 years old, just spot on. Back to Rangers in a second, but I see Tony Adams is going to be in Strictly this year. Have you ever been invited onto Strictly or anything like that, Barry? Have you got the feet for it?
I'm just about to say that. I'll get 2 left feet when it comes to dancing.
Peter, yourself?
No, anybody that's seen me playing knows I can't dance. No, but my youngest boy, he done it. He done it for charity. It was fantastic. I think he came second in it.
At the Hilton in Glasgow, they do it every couple of years.
I'll tell you what, he trained like a beast for it. But it was absolutely brilliant. It was magic to watch, because never in a million years would I thought anybody would ever done that. But he went on and done it for charity. He was excellent at it, and it was a fantastic night.
I'll tell you, the big boss here, Tracy, did it. I saw it a few years ago at the Hilton as well. Amazing amount of money raised for charity.
Yeah, it is. And the amount of work it goes into it. The amount of training people don't realise. And people say it's the fittest they've ever been when they come out after that training for the dancing. Get on to that.
I could see you throwing a few shapes on the dance floor.
Getting thrown out the dance floor, that's what it would be. There was a few shapes for Rangers last night, weren't there? It could have gone, just when you think about, that save from the keeper at 2-up for Rangers, but it could have changed it. It didn't. 3-0 to Rangers. Here is the manager speaking about that performance. It's the first time ever they reversed a 2-goal deficit in Europe.
Well, we needed a big performance, and the pressure was on us, of course, because of the defeat we had last week. We know we are capable in delivering big nights for the club, but still you have to do it over and over again. That's why I'm so proud of my players, the way they played, with passion, with desire, with fire to go to the next round. And that's the only way. You have to be on the pitch to create the atmosphere we created today, together with the fans. Again, it was an amazing night for all of us.
You got it right again. People have doubted at times.
Yeah, Bill, you asked us Monday the team selection. I got a few wrong. I'm sure Rangers fans were probably surprised with a few selection. A few of the selections that Gio made, but listen, he got it spot on. Rangers got the result. They get through into the last qualifier against PSV. And look, I like the words he used there, desire and fire. That's what you've got to have. And they certainly showed that last night, because I've seen them play a lot better, but the most important thing for Rangers was getting into the last round to play PSV.
And next up, Peter, PSV.
Well, it's familiar. It's a familiar team for me. It's great to see Ruud van Nistelrooy. Again, we have so many familiar faces on the bench. Fred Witten as well, I was the assistant of at Feyenoord a couple of years ago. Hoyer, who I played in the national team. It's a familiar place for me, so it's nice to be back in Holland for a couple of days after so many months in Glasgow. We're going to prepare well. It's a big chance for us to take the last hurdle and to become a team who can play Champions League this season.
Looking forward to it, Peter Grant.
Absolutely. And listen, the thing I liked about the earlier interview he done, he spoke about tactics, and I think that's where he's got ahead of Gerrard, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he's already thinking about what players played, why they played. He needed a little bit of pace here. He gives an explanation why certain guys played and why certain guys didn't, and I think he does that very well, and I think he'd done that exceptionally well last year. He knew when to change into the back three, and he talks about why players are in that particular position. It's not just, I'll put a substitute on for a reason, because he's got pace, and there's an explanation behind everything he does, and it shows a great character and strength that a manager's got to have.
Barry today would be just taking it easy, obviously.
I think they would have had a day off. There's a lot of pressure on them last night. So listen, the game on Saturday against St Johnstone, I think he would have just said, listen, stay at home, spend a bit of time with the family. They'll be in tomorrow morning. Peter will tell you 48 hours after the game, that's when you really feel it. So it'll be more of a light session. Then Friday, sharp session, making sure you get 3 points for the Saturday.
And you feel they can do it, Rangers, against PSV?
Yeah, listen, they've got every opportunity. They've got to go in with confidence. They've got a game before that. I don't like speaking too far in front always.
One at a time.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sure that would there'd been no chat. Listen, happy last night. Look forward to getting 3 points on Saturday.
Well done. Thanks for the last 2 hours, guys. Tomorrow night, Andy Walker's here with Craig Moore at 5. Up next after the news, it's going to be Jokel Day.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go! Service your existing car with us right now,
And it's worth £500 off your next car.
Yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.